This is Mrs. Velting. I'm going to be recording lesson 1 for nutrition, digestion, and metabolism section. This is for week 1, nutrition principles and human digestion. And this is regarding chapter 1 materials if you are reading the book. So first, let's start out with what is nutrition. Studying nutrients is a science of learning how foods that we eat affect the growth and maintenance of our body. Nutrients provide energy. They also provide methods for the body to accomplish certain functions, which eventually decreases our risk of disease or prevents us from getting certain diseases. Nutrition evolves as we explore different topics, as we evaluate individuals and study how diseases are changing, also studying our genetics. So the way your grandparents looked and the diseases that they were susceptible to, the way your parents look, they look a certain way, and therefore you look a certain way. And that's a demonstration of our genetics being passed down to along in our family history. Nutrition is also the study of the relationship we have with food and the relationship of nutrients to the health and disease. We also study why we choose certain foods. So let's look at some reasons why we choose food. Obviously, flavor. If it doesn't taste good, you're not likely to go back and have that food again. Taste is the number one or the most common reason why people choose certain foods, but there's more to it than that. When we get into a little bit more of our psyche of why we're picking certain things, it's the aspect of food. What does it cost? Is it convenient for me to get that food? While you're in your culinary classes, you may be more likely to try lots of different types of food because it's right there, and someone is teaching you how to prepare it properly. Our culture, our religion, there are certain things at certain times of the year or during certain religious activities that we might choose to eat. And then also for health reasons, obviously, that's also why we're taking this class, learning how eating healthy and choosing foods that are nurturing our body, how that can help us. And then sometimes that affects making positive changes. There are also emotional influences, how you feel. Sometimes we just really want some comfort food. And maybe it's certain types or certain times of the year for certain holidays, you expect to be eating certain types of food and you kind of crave those foods. The media also plays a big part. If we see a hamburger and fries, we might start craving a hamburger and fries when normally, maybe we'd already packed our lunch for the day and we were already prepared to have maybe a little bit healthier choice. So taste is part of flavor. Smell, texture, mouthfeel, temperature, the sounds of the food is all part of flavor, but taste is the most common consideration for people when it comes to flavor and why they choose certain foods. Demographics is another effect on our food choices, your age, your gender, your education level. So do I know that French fries are, yes, somewhat come from potatoes, but that they're so highly processed, they really provide very little nutrients? Is that something I'm aware of because I had some education or I read a book about it or a science article? Or am I not aware that French fries are not a healthy choice when it comes to a type of potato serving, and that they're very high in inflammatory fats? So once I learn that, then I might decide to make a different choice when I'm picking a side dish for my meal. Also keep in mind, I go through these slides somewhat quickly, but the idea is that you don't need to buy the textbook if you don't choose to. The information is here for you in the PowerPoint slides. I will just talk about certain things that I want to bring out that I think is important. Well, all of it is important, but certain things that I think would be good for discussion. So there are different diseases that are influenced by our diet. Heart disease, #1 killer of Americans. Diabetes, that affects the blood sugar in your body. stroke, and then certain forms of cancer, and there's more, but these are the main ones. And actually, it's so well known now through science and research that these particular diseases are affected by our diet, that now insurance companies are many times are starting to cover nutrition education for these particular diseases. Genetics also influences our risk of disease. Personalized nutrition is very important because we are all slightly different. Yes, our bodies are functioning the same ideally, but genetically we are different in that in our risk of disease based on what your grandparents were at risk for. Was there a lot of diabetes in your family? There's a lot of diabetes in my family. I'm more at risk of getting diabetes than I am maybe of having certain types of cancer. I know that because I've seen it in my family line. So our genetic makeup interacts with our diet, and that's what this is kind of explaining here. So if you look at the picture of this is like a picture of your DNA plus your diet, combining those, now we can understand a little bit better your risk of health and disease. So just because I have diabetes that runs in my family, or maybe someone has cancer that runs in their family, doesn't mean you're necessarily going to get, say, diabetes or cancer. You can affect your risks and how your life, your health turns out by changing your diet to make healthy choices. That's supposed to be a positive thing for you to think about, not something to be scared of. This is just a picture of how those things intersect. You don't need to memorize these definitions, but nutrigenetics and nutrigenomics, those are different definitions of how our genes and our diet can intersect and affect each other. All right, we're not going to do that activity. Sorry, some of these slides I'm used to using when we're in class face-to-face. So next we're going to talk about what are calories. Calories are the measure of the energy in our food. You could call it a kcal or a calorie, either one is correct. There are different nutrients that provide us calories and certain nutrients that do not. All 6 of these classes of nutrients are very important for our body's function. But right now I want you to focus on the ones that provide calories. So notice carbohydrates, fats, proteins. They provide a different calorie amount per gram of that food. So if I'm holding 1 gram of carbohydrate in my hand, that gram of carbohydrate provides me with 4 calories. So notice fats actually provide more energy per gram than carbohydrates and protein. There are no calories in vitamins, minerals, and water, but those are still very important nutrients that we need daily. There is calories in alcohol, but alcohol does not promote growth and maintenance of the body, and actually can be a detriment to using the calories and the nutrients we're eating in maybe the foods while we're drinking alcohol. So alcohol is not considered a nutrient. We can further classify these nutrients into macronutrients and micronutrients. And if you think about macro and micro, we have large and small. And that's exactly why we call them this. Carbohydrates, fats, and protein, we need them in larger amounts in our diet, and they're also larger molecules. Micronutrients are just that. They're very small. We need them in very small amounts every day, but they're still very important. And they have a big impact, even though they're small things that we consume in our diet. So notice the ones that are energy yielding. Macronutrients provide energy, and later we're going to learn in week 3 more about micronutrients. Micronutrients help us use the calories we're consuming in our food, but they don't actually provide any calories. Vitamins and minerals help us regulate the body processes. They maintain our health, and they kind of act as like a stepstone or almost like a catalyst for certain functions in our body. And that's why they're so valuable. Vitamins and minerals are also considered essential nutrients. Nutrients are called essential in nutrition when we must consume them in order to use them and have them. There are some nutrients we can make in our body, but we have to have those essential nutrients in order to do that. And we'll learn more about that later. Water is very important for, everyone thinks of water as hydration. That hydration is doing a lot more for us than just keeping us from feeling thirsty. Water helps us with digestion and absorption. Digestion is the breakdown of food. Absorption is the actual absorbing the nutrients into our bloodstream so that we can use those vitamins and minerals and calories. Water affects our circulation. It lubricates your joints. So if you have achy joints and you're like, I really don't drink very much water throughout the day. I mostly stick with either pop or coffee. You might have less achy joints if you drank a sufficient amount of water. And then also just transporting certain nutrients around our body. Our body is made up of 50 to 60% water. And that's something I'd like you to remember for later too. So there is a good portion of our body that is water, and we need to replenish that water daily. So this is just another reminder that essential nutrients are nutrients that we must consume. They cannot be made in the body. And examples of that would be vitamins and minerals. The majority of those nutrients cannot be made in the body. There's a couple of vitamins that we can make, and we'll talk more about those later. But essential nutrients you cannot make, you must consume them. And many nutrients, like certain vitamins and minerals, you need to consume them daily in order to not get depleted of those nutrients. So next we're going to talk about what happens when you eat, and I'm going to record that in a second lesson.